Welcome to Sisters in Sobriety. Today we're joined by Heather Francis, the host of Midlife Moves Podcast, a space dedicated to helping women feel seen, strong, and empowered during one of the most misunderstood transitions in midlife.
Heather speaks candidly about how our bodies change and how movement, strength, training, protein, and recovery can become tools rather than punishment.
So today we'll explore how identity and self-definition evolve in our 40s and 50s and how curiosity can replace fear in this part of your life. Welcome, Heather.
Oh, hi. Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So, Heather, for listeners who are meeting you for the first time, how do you usually describe who you are in the work you do?
Sure. So I'm a mom of 4 first. I am the host of Midlife Moves. I am a professional woman, and I am someone who is starting to rediscover who she is in her 40s.
I love that description. What originally pulled you towards focusing on women in midlife specifically?
So once my kids started getting older, my children range from 26 to 13. And once they started aging out of the house and going to college, I found that I had more time because, kids take up your time. And I realized I had no idea who I was. And I really had no interests outside of my kids and my family. I had built my entire life around taking care of my children and taking care of my husband and my husband's business and like my home. And that was who I was. And so once I started having to figure out what I liked outside of that, it was like an identity crisis. And I was like deeply, it was like in that, a subsequent depression. It wasn't great. So as I started to come out of it, I started thinking like, there's no way that I'm the only woman who went through this. And I don't have a huge social circle just because of, logistics. 4 children doesn't allow for a whole lot of time with friends. And so I was like, there's no way that I'm the only one that's going through this. So I just wanted to talk about my experiences. And my thought was, if I can reach one woman who will hear me talk about these things, these hard things, and she'll feel seen, then that'll be good. And so, the podcast was born from there.
Is there a moment, like physically, emotionally, it sounds like emotionally, but hormonally, where you realized this phase is different than the other phases of my life?
I think there at the same time that I was starting to come out of that, I was realizing my potential. And because as you're aging, you're kind of thinking, oh, I'm in my 40s. I'm 41. God, I'm so old. And the reality is you're not old at 41. We still have 40, 50 years left. We still have more, possibly more than half our life left. So there's so much time. So really, like, the world is wide open to us. There's, like we look at it as, like we're getting older and, oh, I need to like start settling down and calming down because my kids are aging, when really, it really is a second act. My situation was a little bit different. I had an extended illness after my son was born. And so that kind of set things back further. So at the same time as, my kids were moving out, I was starting to come out of, healing with that, and so it was really just realizing there's so much time left and really like the world is wide open to us. And we have the experience to move from that, like we're not in our 20s, where we know nothing. We have life experience to pull from.
What conversations did you personally wish existed when you entered midlife?
Oh, I wish we talked more about perimenopause and the hormonal stuff that was happening there. Yeah. Like our parents didn't really talk about that. They're not of a generation to talk about things like hormones and their experiences with that. So I wish I had a clearer sense of what was to come beyond hot flashes. Because we know about the hot flashes, but we don't know about, everything else that happens. That's probably the biggest one. Like just buckle up because it's going to get bumpy.
Yeah, and it isn't a conversation. I mean, now I think we're having the conversation, but I remember saying something to my mom about perimenopause, and she was like, "What's that?" She was like, "There's just menopause." And I'm like, "No, no, no." She had no idea.
And we look at how much has gone into women's research, and it's just not substantial enough. So
No.
really, they didn't know, because my mom, I don't ever remember her saying the words perimenopause.
Mm.
It was like you were in menopause or you were out of menopause. Like there was before and after.
Yeah. And so, how do these hormonal shifts, you think, impact anxiety, mood, emotional regulation? What was your experience?
So I am an anxious person, like, to begin with. So there was absolutely a space where that got worse. It has affected me most with my sleep. That's where I'm affected most. It is hard for me to fall asleep. Or it's not hard for me to fall asleep, but it is absolutely hard for me to stay asleep. 1 o'clock in the morning hits, and I'm up. Like sometimes it's a little bit different. We can talk about magnesium and its role in that when we talk a little bit later. But the sleep has hit me hardest. The anxiety was substantial, but one of the things that helped with the anxiety was movement. Once I started being like really focusing on my fitness and my nutrition and all of those things, the anxiety really subsided. So that has been, and I've been on anxiety medications. I've been on all kinds of, I've done the Xanax and the Zoloft and all of those things. And really what's helped me the most with that was movement.
So why don't we start with movement then? What worked for us in our 20s and 30s often stops working for us in midlife. Why does that happen?
So I can speak to my experience with this. I'm not
Yeah.
a trainer, but this is my lived experience. We, especially in our generation, are taught that you do cardio and
Yeah.
hit, like the high intensity stuff is the way to go. And that does work for us for a time. And then we reach a point where, like now, our bone health is affected. All of these other things, the cardio, now research is saying that cardio may not be the most effective way for us to move our bodies. Heavy cardio, running, absolutely. Like you want that cardio aspect, you need the cardiac health. But strength training is really the most beneficial to women in our age group. That doesn't have to mean deadlifting crazy amounts of weight. That does, like lifting heavy weights doesn't have to mean, 250-pound, barbells. It can mean just using a weight that's challenging for you, building up that muscle mass. It can mean taking the time to make sure your mobility is intact at the same time as building your muscle, because all of that goes into just your overall your bone health, and in perimenopause it's just more important than ever.
I'm sort of like in a fitness place now. Like I'm really focused more on movement every day. And I don't really think about it from a perspective any longer about what it looks like, more for my longevity.
Yeah.
It was a really hard shift, though. I'm going to say that. Like, it's taken years for me to shift that mindset. Why do you think that shift might be so hard? And did you experience something similar?
The most important movement is any movement. So if your movement is just walking, that's great. That's what you should be doing then. Like if that's what you enjoy doing. So the program that works for you is the program that you're going to do, right? So if that's just going for a walk, then it's just going for a walk. I did nothing for a long time because I hate cardio. If you are going to tell me that I have to go, I can run 5 miles. I can, like, if you told me now I had to go do that, I would go do it, but I would hate every second of it. And I would be miserable to be around for a little while afterwards. So my evolution was just finding something that worked for me. And it just so happened that it was strength training. And that strength training is what we need in midlife. But I didn't like cardio. So I think that if you're in the mindset of, like that's your jam, I think really whatever, as long as you're moving your body, then you're doing that's going to work as long as you're sticking with it.
Sonia makes this really funny joke about how she likes any exercise that involves lying down. So she loves Pilates and like anything where she's lying down.
Swear to God, last night I did an upper body workout that was full lying down. It was like
I know you so well.
press. It was like tricep.
I know you so well.
That is so funny. And I was actually just like, oh, feeling good today. But I really did. And I actually had the TV on during, and I was watching reality
Oh my
TV,
gosh.
but it was full lying down. And I like, okay, so speaking of my full lying down strength training, can you talk a little bit more about strength training? And so I think what I struggle with is I was like, oh, so there's upper body, there's like abs and like glutes, there's lower body. And so how do you incorporate strength training? Do you do like a total body workout? Can I do it lying down? I mean, I'm using like 10-pound weights. That's about as heavy as I can go.
Yeah.
And so yeah, can you talk to us just a little bit more about the logistics? I think there's probably women listening like me that are like, I'm not going to go to the gym and lift like a barbell over my
Mhm.
head.
Mhm. So I have a coach. I have an online coach that she writes my program for me, and I do a 5-day program and then 2 days of mobility. But there's plenty of women that do three. They have 3-day programs. So my 5-day split is 2 upper days and 3 lower days. So I focus specifically. Today was like an upper day, right? So I did like I can do bench press. I'll do pull downs. I'll do pull ups, focusing on all different aspects of back, buys, all of the upper body. I don't do a lot of chest because I am small chested and I need nothing else taking taking away from there. So I personally don't do chest. Abs I don't do separately as a rule because there's so many of the movements when you're doing them right, they incorporate abs. You need to be bracing your core. So, and abs are everything from like your glutes up to me, is what one of my coaches explained to me. So I don't do abs separately. And then the other thing that I do try to incorporate, I do walk on the treadmill. I do an incline walk on a treadmill a couple times a week. So that's my split. But really there's, you could do a whole body day. My husband will focus on his whole body and some of the 3-day workouts that other women do. It's a whole body day, 3 days a week.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I think I strength train 3 days a week. So I do arms one day, legs the other day, and then a full body.
Mhm.
And then I'm trying to walk every day. And then 3 days a week, I'm doing yoga or Pilates for my
So yoga,
flexibility.
love yoga. I love hot yoga. I just don't do it enough, but I think it's fantastic for
I love
mobility.
it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I'm a yoga teacher. I don't teach anymore,
Oh, are
but
you?
yeah, yeah. I don't teach. It's been a few years since I've actually taught a class, but
Mhm.
um, I I'm a huge fan of yoga because it integrates mind and body.
Mhm.
And so even the emotions that we go through in midlife, even the anxiety, it really connects your breath to the body. So we often live in our heads, like we're
Mhm.
just overthinking, right? And yoga, I find, is the time where we don't do that. We can actually like integrate our breath with our body and our mind. So that's why I love it. But I digress.
I think it's great. I think I can remember taking a yoga class and every time I would go into pigeon, I would wind up crying.
Yeah.
Yes, because it opens your hips. That's a very
I
common thing.
love that. Loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
amazing. How do you know if someone is over exercising instead of supporting their body?
Well, I'm over exercising and I can tell you that.
But can I ask that? You can pass on this question, but how do you know that you're over exercising?
My nutrition gets weird and I'm constantly tired. My body is not recovering the
Okay.
way. So, like
Okay.
this week, as a matter of fact, there was a conversation I just had with my coach yesterday that I have to be very intentional with taking those rest days. Because what I'll do is I'll go do mobility or walk and I'll do it at the gym on one of my rest days. And then while I'm there, my husband will be there and he'll be lifting weights and I'll be like, "Oh, well, why don't I just try this now?" And so next thing you know, like and I'm like so I'll deadlift, and I'm just like, well, this is one exercise, it doesn't count. But in reality, it's a whole body, your whole body's incorporated in what it does to your nervous system. And that's not a rest day anymore. So, so I get very tired. My body just doesn't ever feel like it's recovering, which could
Okay.
also be part of my sleep problem.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm with you though on the 1 a.m. wake ups. That's mine too.
It's
1
rough, isn't
a.m.
it?
Oh my gosh. Can you get back to sleep?
Sometimes, sometimes I can. This morning I could not.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No, so I've been up since 1.
Do you guys
Can you get back to sleep?
Most of the time I can, but I've taught myself because what happens is I'll wake up at 1 a.m. and then I start stressing that I'm up at 1 a.m. and I'm freaking out and being like, I'm gonna have a day full of clients, I'm gonna be too tired.
Mhm.
And so now I listen to a meditation or I get up and I do a restorative yoga class, like on Peloton. I'll just put on a restorative for 20 minutes,
Yeah.
really restorative, like barely like 3 poses through the whole thing. And then I'll listen to a meditation and I can fall asleep. That's my go-to. I give myself 20 minutes. If I'm still
Mhm.
up at 1:20, then I get up and I do those 2 things, and I'm usually able to get back to sleep.
Mhm. Mhm. That's a good idea.
So, Heather, how are you coping though with the sleep piece?
So I I put my phone down early now. I put my phone down at like
Yeah,
7 o'clock, which is
yeah.
new, and that does help. Um, I take magnesium glycinate. I take 2 I don't remember what the milligrams are. I could check to see what the milligrams are, but I take 2 tabs of magnesium glycinate, and that does help relax me. I do that around 6 o'clock, but I'm in bed at 8. Like I go to sleep at like 8:30, because sleep is so messed up, and I'd like to get it where I can.
Yeah.
The other thing I do when I wake up is if I wake up and I have a list of things, I will write them out. Like I'll just
That's a
like
great
really
one.
quick, just like do a dump.
Yeah,
And I will also listen to a meditation on YouTube. I'll put it on like a 3-hour meditation, and that way it finishes and then just goes into music.
yeah. That's a great one. I recommend that. I'm a psychotherapist, Heather, and I recommend that piece, the writing the things down. I recommend like anyone who has an anxious mind, especially in midlife, I do find women, their anxiety levels are going up. I say, please keep a journal next to your bed. Write out whatever's coming up, and then it's captured. You don't have to ruminate about it. You can
Mhm.
just, it's there. You can come back to it tomorrow.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's not, and honestly, it's all worse at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
All of
yeah,
it's worse at 1 o'clock in the morning.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I take magnesium too. It's a good one. It's a good one.
well,
Um,
oh,
I will
Go
tell
ahead.
you the thing that makes the biggest difference. So I know that I know that this is a sobriety podcast, and I will tell. So you and I, Sonia, talked that I'm not sober necessarily, but I can tell you that the nights that I drink, my sleep is a million times worse.
yeah.
So that is a consideration. Like if I'm going to have a glass of wine, I need to know that I'm just not going to get any. Like that makes it a million times worse.
Do you have any wearable technology that you wear that measures your sleep?
So I wear my Apple Watch. I get obsessive with numbers.
Me too.
So I have to be
Okay.
really, really careful with how much I'm tracking in every aspect. So that was sleep. I was wearing this at night, and then I was getting like obsessive about it. And then it was, so I was watching and then that was making everything worse. It's the same thing with tracking calories. Like I have to be really, really careful when I track calories. I have to be really, really careful when I weigh myself. Those are traps that I know that I fall into. And so I try to minimize any
Yes,
access to
for
numbers.
sure. For
Mhm.
sure. The reason I bring it up is because I recently got an Aura ring and it's measuring my sleep. And I don't drink, obviously.
Mhm.
But I was out with friends on the weekend and they do drink, and they said that their sleep from one drink of alcohol is completely messed up. From one drink,
Mhm.
the numbers on their Aura Ring would say they have not had any deep sleep.
Mhm.
Their sleep is completely messed up from one beverage. alcoholic beverage, one. So I don't experience that in my Oura ring because I don't drink, but
Mhm.
I thought that was really interesting, the impact of alcohol on sleep.
How does sugar affect you? Have you know do you 'cause
Oh,
I stopped eating
crazy.
at 6.
This is a whole
So
tangent. So I'm day 23. Sonia, I'm day 23, no sugar.
so you're not having any sugar at all?
I'm in recovery from a sugar addiction.
Mhm.
I am in recovery from a sugar addiction. I cannot even tell you the difference to my sleep. So when I would have sugar, I couldn't get back to sleep with the 1 a.m. wake ups. I could
Mhm.
not get back to sleep. And I did notice it. The days I had sugar, I had horrible sleep, no sugar, better sleep. And now that I'm 23 days in, my sleep is unbelievably better. Yeah.
Sugar after 5 o'clock, really, for me is bad.
Yeah.
I have a brain injury, so the way, like, I metabolize sugar is
Oh,
different anyway. So sugar's another one I have to stay away from,
sugar is
especially at
brutal.
night.
Yeah.
Sugar's brutal.
Yeah. Sugar is brutal. And that has changed for me. Has that changed for you? Because I could eat sugar before in my 20s and 30s and not have the effects as noticeable. They weren't as noticeable, the effects. But now there's no way. I can't.
No. No, I went out to dinner with my mom last week, and she wanted to eat at 6 o'clock, which for me might as well be 9 o'clock. So
Yeah.
we were having dessert at like 7:30, and I was like, "Listen, I'm having this dessert because I want to, but
Huh.
I'm gonna pay for it." And I did. Like,
Uh-huh.
I felt it, and it gives me a headache, the whole deal. Yeah,
Mhm.
sugar's brutal.
Mhm. Well, so how do lifestyle factors like sleep, exercise, nutrition, alcohol, how do they affect hormonal health? I mean, clearly they do that we're talking about, but how do you
Oh,
think they do?
clear. I have to it's just an overall, like, wellness state, right? So if you're taking care of your body, if you're eating if you're so I believe that you should eat to fuel your body, but you should also
Mhm.
enjoy food, right? So I have
Mhm,
meals
mhm.
that are really boring, like, I have, ground turkey and sweet potatoes for, like, that's my meal prep, and so
I
I'll have
love
that
that
for
meal,
lunch
by the
every day.
way. I love that
I
meal.
I
So good.
love them, and if you put balsamic glaze on it just a little bit, it's so good, so good. But, like, so I believe that food is fuel, but also you should enjoy it. So, like, I'm by
Mhm.
no means saying, don't enjoy food because I go out for ice cream regularly, things like that. But I think that just as an overall health state, when you're taking care of your body in ways like that, you're going to feel better. So
Mhm.
obviously, I don't know how much it has to do with actual hormones. Like I know that there's hormone replacement therapy, and that is a very individual decision. But I know just from how you feel in general when I'm taking care of my body and when I'm doing the things that I know it needs to recover, I feel good. Like,
Yeah.
emotionally, I feel good, and mentally, I
Yeah.
feel clear, and physically, I feel good and I feel strong.
And so if we look at recovery as a a bunch of different factors like nutrition, in terms like just of the exercise piece, I never know what a recovery day means, just kind of like how you explained it. And so is a recovery day yoga? Is a recovery day walking? I used to think a recovery day was just like napping and lying on the couch on like a Sunday, and that was my like non-workout day. But now I'm trying to move every day. And so, what is a recovery day specifically when it comes to exercise?
So mine is typically mobility or walking. Like, I think mobility is really, really important, and I neglected it for a long time, and I can tell that I'm neglecting it when it's hard for me to move. Like, when I go to get my phone out of my backpack and I have to, like, ask my husband to do it for me because I just can't, like, reach around. Mobility, you can do that very gently, just like a gentle stretch, like a restorative yoga would be good. Walking is the other thing that I do. For perspective, like, I try to get like 12,000 steps a day. We work from home. My husband and I work from home. I have a walking pad. We do what we can just to keep our bodies moving.
I think can I just add something to that as well,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
answer your question, Sonia, is I think a recovery day is really also about you checking in, and this is the therapist part of me, and seeing like what do you actually need on a recovery day. So I just had the flu. I needed to rest. I was not moving my body. Just like we talked about before we jumped on, when you get back into it, it's like I checked in with my body this morning. I wanted to do 30 minutes on the walking pad. My first day back to exercise, I only did 20 because I was really tuned in with what my body needed. And so some days your rest day, Sonia, might look like a nap because that's what you need. And then someday it might look like walking.
I just started doing like the Peloton stretching classes on my recovery day.
Love those.
Yeah,
I
and
love
I was in a pigeon for a long time on Sunday. I didn't cry.
Did you cry?
No,
Did you cry? I was about to, did you cry?
no, I cried because I didn't want to be there, but like, no, I didn't cry. I always think that when people are like, oh, I've had this like emotional experience, and I'm just like, I didn't. Like, I feel like this sucks. Um, Heather, okay, so another part of the recovery was the nutrition. And so I know when you and I spoke before, we talked a little bit about protein, and I get very confused as a vegetarian, especially about protein. But why is protein? Why is it all of a sudden everywhere? Like Khloe Kardashian has like popcorn with protein. And so what is the big deal?
So I can just tell you my theory on protein and the way I consume it. And that is I don't buy into the protein um gimmicks. I don't buy into the protein popcorn. Like I won't buy things just because it says protein in front of it. So it is important with muscle development. Um, but I always try to get it through whole foods. So my rule is that in every meal, every snack, everything that I eat, there has to be some form of protein in it. So for me, I know we talked about, you're a vegetarian, so that could look like, so my afternoon snack is tuna fish and crackers. It's really kind of icky, and then I'll have something else fun if I'm still hungry. But I always try to have protein with whatever I'm having. My breakfast is loaded with protein. I have eggs and ground turkey and or chicken, and and a carb, sweet potatoes. It could be anything, but I load the mornings up with protein. And I don't drink protein drinks because my stomach can't handle. It just can't handle it. Any of the protein supplements I've tried I've struggled with. But there is a protein bar, a vegan protein bar. I think the brand is One or something. I'll look at it and tell you it has 12 grams of protein. And that's another thing that I eat in the morning. I finish my workout, I eat that. It's like eating a brownie. You can't taste the protein in it. But I always focus on the whole proteins and with every single meal, which is unfortunate when I want ice cream for a meal, then I have to find something with protein.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say you morning load. I just started doing that a few weeks ago, like really loading up my breakfast with protein. It has completely shifted my life. Like I know that sounds really extreme, but I'm talking like 50 to 60 grams of protein in the morning.
Yeah.
It has totally shifted. I do not have sugar cravings anymore. My energy is sustained throughout the day. Like I can't believe what a difference. And then when I really look at how much protein I was actually getting before, I was maybe getting like 15, 20 grams of protein, but and I'm very tall. So, I'm like 5'11", so I'm very tall. I just, my protein intake will be higher than someone else's, but, it really did shift things for me. So it's interesting that you do that too.
Yeah, well, I also find that it makes eating the rest of the day more intentional. Like when you start the
Yes.
day off like that.
Yes.
And I would have sugar spikes. I used to have sugar
Mhm.
spikes all the time, and I don't have
Mhm.
those anymore.
Me either.
Mm.
Me either. It's huge. I definitely noticed a difference. So what happens when women aren't getting enough protein?
So from the muscle aspect of it, when you're trying to build muscle, the protein is imperative.
Yeah, me too. Definitely.
That makes sense. Okay, so sorry, back to the protein sources. Since I'm
Yeah.
vegetarian and I can't have the ground turkey, what challenges do you see there? What are some realistic, maybe non-supplement based vegetarian protein sources you can recommend?
So as someone who was charged with preparing protein meals for my husband, who was vegan for 15 years,
Oh,
we did everything with beans. We had beans, and we had tempeh, and we had tofu with almost every meal. Lentils are a great source of protein. I don't know if you drink soy milk. Soy milk has good protein.
I have a soy allergy, but I do
Oh, do you?
yeah, but I do remember you clearly saying, interestingly, that your husband couldn't be vegan anymore, right? Like, did he start training? And
So he was an ultra marathon runner
yes,
who was vegan because he felt like at a certain point in his life, removing the meat helped him recover better. And then he reached a point where he felt like he was not getting the nutrients he needed just with supplements and vegan sources. So he went back to his meat-filled diet. And so now he's still dairy-free. He is still dairy-free for the most part. We went to Rome and he had all of the cheese there and had no problem. But then we came back home and he has
Yeah.
problems again. so he's dairy-free again. So he eliminated most of his protein sources. Most of his supplement sources he eliminated.
okay. But as a vegetarian, you think the lentils are sort of, I'm trying to incorporate lentils at least into like one of my meals every day. So either breakfast or lunch.
Oh yeah, lentils are good. Do you do the tempeh? Do you do all that? Do you do the
I do tofu, but I don't do
seitan? Is that
yeah, Satan. I don't like, yeah, Satan. I don't, for some reason, don't love those two. I
yeah.
also don't love, and this is how I am with alcohol too, right? I don't love things that are made to taste like alcohol that don't have alcohol. And I don't like things that are made to taste like meat that don't have meat. And so sometimes I find like the seitan like crumbles, it's like supposed to mimic like ground meat. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It's definitely like a mental thing. I should talk to my therapist about it.
No, not at well. So I would make tacos with those, and those
Right,
were the
right.
only thing that I could do because it masked all of it.
Yeah. I was just thinking
Yeah.
about tacos, like ground meat. And so
Mhm.
it's like the ground kind of like seitan or like the tempeh. Yeah, that's funny.
I didn't like tempeh either. If that was my least favorite thing. We used to do he used to like to do like the tempeh tomato and like a TLT instead of the tempeh instead of the bacon. And that was my least favorite.
So I am sort
Tempeh.
of like that too, where it's like if I want a piece of bacon, I think like twice a year I'll have bacon. And so just because I don't like the faux stuff. So it's like if I want a piece of
Yeah.
bacon, I will. But so I know we talked about this a little bit, but Heather, what supplements are women underusing, do you think, in midlife?
So creatine for muscle development, but also creatine has a lot of really good cognitive benefits, and which is especially important for women in this stage of life, because one of the things that we experience with perimenopause is brain fog, right? So and creatine is one of the more well-researched supplements for men, granted, but they do know that there is cognitive benefits to creatine in women. So on my show, I actually had this conversation with one of the doctors, and she said specifically magnesium glycinate and creatine. I also take, the supplements that I take though, like I take a standard multivitamin just to cover all bases. And then I let my doctor tell me what else to take. So I take an iron pill because that's what my blood work indicated that I needed. And I take a vitamin D pill because that's what my blood work indicated that I needed. I'm not someone that thinks that you should just take a supplement because it's the in thing to do. I think that there should be reasons that you put things in your body. And with me, with me, it was just following what my doctor felt like was the most important. And so that would be so it's really pretty standard, actually. It's just like the multivitamin, the iron, the vitamin D, um, the magnesium, and the creatine.
Wait, what does creatine do? I know I sound like an idiot, but like what exactly is creatine, and is it a powder you put in like a shake every day?
So I can tell. So creatine, I take a powder. There are gummies that you can take.
Okay.
And those gummies we took for a long time. And I'm going to be honest with you. I took the gummy and I take the powder now. And I didn't notice a difference from when I switched from one to the other. I think that as long as you're getting it, you're getting it. But I know they have researched the powder specifically. And so that is what, like if you Google the benefits of creatine, they're talking about the powder. I take it primarily for strength. If I didn't work out the way that I work out, I probably wouldn't know about creatine, and I probably wouldn't, it wouldn't even be on my radar, to be totally honest. It just so happens it does aid with building muscle, but then the cognitive, there's research around brain health and cognition.
So if I don't work out, so that's, I think, how I always
You should still take it, yeah.
Yeah, I looked at it like, you have to work out to take creatine, almost like I thought like it used it when you worked out. And so otherwise it would just not make any sense for me to take it.
I think the cognitive benefits, I think that some of the research is saying now that the cognitive benefits are pretty substantial for women.
I think I'm in
Sonia, you should take it because it's an amino acid, and I'm pretty sure that we often will get small amounts of it from like red meat and fish.
Okay.
So like our body, I'm pretty sure about this, naturally produces it, I think, in our liver and our kidneys. And so if we don't supplement with it, then our body does produce it, but we often will, if we're working out, doing strength training, or in middle age, need more of it. Our body produces less of it, is my understanding. And so definitely as a vegetarian, you're not necessarily getting it from natural sources.
Okay. I just like went on Amazon. I'm going to get some gummies, I think, because I love a gummy.
I'll send you the ones that I take,
okay,
because some of them are real gross.
Okay. Yes, that would be much appreciated, because I do sort of look at my gummies like a dessert. And so if they can like taste good, like if they don't taste good, I'm very disappointed.
I think the most important thing with supplements is to just make sure you're going for your annual physicals and your blood work's being done, because your doctor's going to be the biggest resource for those.
Yeah.
That's actually, honestly, a really good reminder. I hadn't had a physical in years and years and years, and I had one last year, and I will go again this year and get one.
Good. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Definitely important. Let's maybe shift to talk about relationships. And the importance of relationships in midlife. How do friendships tend to shift in midlife?
So my experience with friendships has been, so I have, as I mentioned, a very small social circle.
Yeah.
I have a couple girlfriends that I have had, for one since I was in 7th grade and one since I was like 30. So for 15 years. And that's my core group. And then I have my mom and, like my husband and, the people that they're stuck with me. But I don't have a whole lot of people outside of that, so when I was going through my, identity crisis, a lot of that was done alone. And I think that exacerbated how bad that was, because I was not talking to anyone about it. There was no one, I just isolated myself. And so I know that there is effects on the health with, with friendships, and maintaining relationships with people is important. What that looks like in midlife is a lot different now, because, like when the kids were younger, we had sports. My son is still involved in a lot of things. So but we had like all the other sports parents, and we had all the other school parents, and I was part of the PTC. And so like just by default, you were around all these other people and you had all this other social interaction. And now as the kids are getting older, you don't have that. And I work from home with my husband, so it's lonely and it's quiet. So that's part of why I joined the gym. And I think that it's very, very important that we, as we get older, find community wherever we can and whatever that looks like for us.
Yeah, and what does that look like now for you to like intentionally nurture platonic relationships?
Well, so I enjoy movement. So a lot of the people that I interact with are at my gym. Outside
Mm.
of that, I host a group hike when it's not 8 degrees outside. Like just kind of posting on Facebook, like, hey, who wants to go to Valley Forge and, and go for a hike? And there's a bunch of women that will jump in on that. It is making sure that I am actively, when someone asks me to go for coffee, actually going and not just being like, oh, yeah, let's just plan it, but actually going. When maybe 6 months ago, a year ago, I would have been like, yeah, sure. They're like, let's get it on the schedule, and then never followed up. Now I understand it's really, really important that I go for those things, not just for me, but for them too. Because if somebody's reaching out, it's likely because they need communication too, or they need interaction as well. Yeah, Kathleen, what do you think
I
about?
mean, I am a relationship therapist, actually, specifically. I think relationships, all sorts of them, are cornerstones to our health. And I think that our identity shifts in midlife, and so do our relationships. And I think that in order to protect ourselves, including our brains, from decline, we need to have connection with other humans. And for me personally, I'm trying to intentionally pull back from relying on connection through a screen. And really have more human interaction. It's one of my goals for the year, actually. And so I love what you said about not just saying, oh, let's plan it, but actually doing it. It's funny, Sonia and I, we don't live in the same place. And this morning or yesterday, I was like, can we just meet, for a few minutes beforehand? Because I feel like I haven't connected with you since Christmas, and I
I was
really
like,
just
what's
want to
wrong?
talk.
What's wrong? Is
She's
everything
like,
okay?
what's going on? What's happening? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I just want to talk to you. Right? I said, I just want to connect because I think we have to make these intentional moves. So I 100% agree with what you're saying. I'm curious from you, Heather, what you think about identity shifts at this stage of life. You talked really clearly about your children sort of leaving the nest or you not having that sort of sports community as much anymore, and our roles tend to become redefined. How do women then redefine themselves outside of labels like mother, partner, caretaker?
I think about this a lot because so I have an Instagram page where I post some of my workouts, right? And so there is the byline on it is like mom of 4, right? So that is still
Your identity.
how I describe myself first. You
Yeah.
asked me to introduce myself. That was the first thing I said. I am
Yeah.
a mom of 4, right? But beyond that, I have found that it's challenging to break out of that and recognize the confident version of myself, because we're not one person, right? Like I'm not just a mom, and I'm not just a businesswoman, and I'm not just a podcast host. Like you're all of these things put together.
Well, I think
It's
we're all doing that, right? Like, how do you even make that shift? It's like hard to even think about.
and how everyone has known me
Yeah.
for the past 45 years. And maybe I am more than that. And so where I am right now is exploring what more I am. And some of the people are going to be along for that ride, and some of the people are not.
Mhm. Yeah.
But like back to that Instagram page, it's like, well, how much of this is palatable as a mom? And then I go through the process of, well, it doesn't matter because I'm not posting this as a mom. I'm not posting this like this lift as a mom. I'm posting this as a woman who's working out, trying to connect with other women who are interested in the same thing, trying to have, once again, if someone can see themselves in me or if somebody can take something from what I'm doing. I think that our identities in midlife, we're just really waking up to who we actually are, and we're just allowing ourselves to be that thing that maybe we never allowed ourselves to be before.
Yeah.
So, one final question, and I think it's an important one. If midlife had a message for women, what do you think it's asking of us?
Oh, look at the possibilities. Like, look at your possibility. Look at what you're capable of.
I feel that.
And if it's not where you are right now, where do you want to be? Because it doesn't have to mean blowing everything up. That can just mean making little intentional changes to live the life that you actually want to live.
Yeah, I feel that, right? Sorry, I'm interrupting, but I feel it and I think it's funny that, yeah, you don't have to blow up your life. I feel like men have a tendency to do that. Not that I'm talking about my ex, but like, I am.
I think that's a really good reminder. You don't have to blow up your life to do it. It can be small, intentional changes to bring you closer to the life that you want to live.
Right, because this is when some of us are realizing that maybe this isn't the life we wanted.
For sure.
Not that I'm speaking from experience or anything, but
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us, Heather. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
And thank you all for listening to Sisters in Sobriety, and we'll see you next week.